In the tremendously competitive world of the music industry, the classic adage, "you have to spend money to make money," is tremendously true, and all the more so in the digital age. If you're a musical artist of any description, you likely know what we're referring to. The internet offers folks all across the globe a highly accessible platform to promote their music. In other words, as a musician looking to make your music available on the internet, you're faced with a vast amount of competition that's getting bigger by the day. If you wish to stand any respectable sort of chance to establish yourself as a musician in the digital age, it's more or less a given that you've got to invest some money in promotion. Even the most excellently crafted music isn't much good to the world if it's never listened to. But as is ever the case with advertising, paid promotion for music is a seriously tricky matter. After all, it's hardly just a matter of how much money you toss about. Your investments ought to be in advertising that's carefully informed by your brand identity, your target audience, and the nature of your work. Fail to take that stuff into consideration, and you're much less likely to get a return on that investment. So just to put you on the right path in your quest for online musical stardom, we have gathered below a few tips for getting proper, organic paid promotion on Spotify. After all, if you're a musical artist in the internet age, it's pretty likely that you've got some sort of relationship with the internet's leading streaming service. 1. Playlist featuring. You've probably heard this one a fair few times from more or less anyone you've asked for tips on the whole Spotify business, but only because it's so true. Playlists are, in simple terms, a key to growing the prospects of any aspiring Spotify star. Get your tracks featured on a playlist alongside other numbers of similar genres and styles, and you stand a far higher chance of being discovered by appreciative new fans with an established taste for your particular sort of music. But the thing is, you can't just devote every moment of your day to keeping a constant eye on all the latest playlists, deciding which ones have enough potential to be worth getting your stuff on them, and making the effort of doing so. That's where certain companies like, for instance, Pitch Playlist, come in. In brief, they specialize in finding just the right sorts of playlists for your particular music career, the sorts that really have the potential to get noticed, and thus, to get you noticed. They consider your genre and target audience, and ensure that it gels with the playlists they pick out for you. In other words, investing at least some of your marketing budget in the services of a company like Pitch Playlist not only saves you a serious amount of time, it also sees to it that, when it comes to taking advantage of one of Spotify's leading promotional tools, you're leaving matters in experienced hands. 2. Facebook promotion. You've almost certainly learned by now of the close relationship between Spotify and Facebook, to the extent that you can link your two accounts between them. And for this reason, while Facebook, being so popular and all, is always a popular choice as a promotional platform, it's an especially fertile one when it comes to getting your Spotify stuff out there. And yes, that includes making use of their options for paid ads. It's easy to be skeptical of such a thing. After all, it's pretty easy to build up followers on Facebook, especially when you're an artist or the like. Surely it'd just be far more cost-effective to gather your fans to your page, and then advertise your new Spotify releases and the like via Facebook posts. Well, in many cases, yes, but for one thing, paid Facebook ads have far more reach, which means you'll draw in far more fans. And since your ultimate goal here is to grow your Spotify streams, at least, we're assuming it is, since that's what might be called the key path to online music fame, you simply can't grow your numbers fast enough. And for another thing, well, as mentioned, the two platforms are linked. That means that there are a great number of ways in which paid ads on Facebook are particularly well suited to Spotify promotion, not the least of which is the fact that they can be specifically targeted to users who already have Spotify accounts, thus dramatically increasing their likelihood of grabbing attention. As far as target marketing goes, it's pretty perfect, and more than worth a bit of investment. 3. Promoters. Now, to be sure, brand promoters have been a phenomenon since well before the internet started taking over the modern world, but nowadays, with internet stardom becoming more common by the day, it's more accessible than it's ever been. And if you have the budget for it, established internet stars could very well represent your first step toward attaining your own levels of online, and, more specifically, Spotify, stardom. Now, obviously, this is going to require some research. You'll need to consider precisely what the demographic for your musical work is, and from there, you'll need to take the time to connect with them in such a way that ensures that you understand precisely what sort of promoters they trust. After all, having your music pushed by a promoter your fanbase doesn't connect with is arguably worse than no promotion at all. Finding the right music promoter, in other words, is critical. Maybe a noted music critic very much lined up with your demographic regularly posts about featured or sponsor artists. Maybe a YouTuber who you know to be popular among your demographic is willing to feature your music in their videos, along with direct credit. The point, though, is that taking the time to invest in having your work on Spotify promoted by a third party tremendously extends the reach of your work, while still doing so via platforms likely to be taken seriously by your fans. 4. Your website. Yes, to a certain degree, if your personal website is to serve as a means by which to bring up your Spotify numbers, it too will likely require a bit of investment. Sure, updates about your latest releases, or a Spotify play button allowing visitors to stream right through your site, is all well and good, but hardly much in the way of promotion if your site isn't being properly maintained as an advertising and promotion platform. As a musician, you're busy. Tremendously so. That music doesn't write itself, but unfortunately, nor do those website updates. Besides which, there's a decent chance that maintaining a promotion-friendly website might not necessarily be among your strengths. For that reason, it might well be prudent to invest at least a portion of your marketing budget in a professional team to maintain your website. It hardly needs to be a full staff, of course, there's tons of folks out there willing to offer remote website services. It hardly even needs to be everything, just hiring someone to take care of the basic regular updates, to design your site's aesthetic to match with your genre and brand, and to adjust your SEO content to best optimize your site for search engine visibility, can do a great deal to bring in a considerable number of new clicks. Considering how many folks there are out there performing such services, many of whom specialize specifically in music-related websites, it's pretty likely that you'll find one within your price range with little problem. And why is this so critical? Because your site isn't just the central online representation of your music and the brand that it's built upon, it's also a major advertising platform in its own right. Folks who are lead there, be it through search engines, or through your other online presences, are all either established or potential new fans, and if you're going to persuade them to click the Spotify play button or visit your Spotify profile, you need to be sure that your site is properly optimized to ensure that they stay, and that they keep coming back. You owe it to yourself, your fans, and your music to ensure that your site is maintained in such a manner that properly reflects the pride you take in your work. Besides which, it's a serious investment in your quest for stardom. 5. Avoid dodgy quick fixes. As with, well, more or less any business, the whole matter of paid promotion for Spotify has a slightly seedy underside. Sadly, ever since Spotify became one of the definitive streaming platforms, there have emerged services promising artists less than honest ways to push up the numbers, claiming that, for the right price, they'll push you up the Spotify charts by swelling your views via hacks, bots, or other artificial means. Leaving aside the whole matter of artistic integrity, this approach is pretty much one of the worst that an aspiring Spotify fan can choose to take. For one thing, a great deal of these services are highly dishonest in their representation of what they do. And even if they do push up your numbers, well, chances are that Spotify won't stand for it. Major streaming services like that don't stand for numbers that are being artificially inflated, and if you're discovered making use of such a service, you could find yourself completely losing your position on that platform, to say nothing of the profound damage it's bound to do to you in the eyes of the music community. Artists don't like the idea of their competitors getting ahead of them through such dishonest means. To be sure, there's a great deal of businesses out there, like Pitch Playlist, that can genuinely help you get your view numbers up. But theirs is a professional process, one which, like any honest advertising approach, most certainly doesn't bring in the cash instantly. Basically, just take care when picking through the many online services that promise you that the services are the key to Spotify stardom. Verify them externally, consult with artists who have worked with them in the past, and ensure that their approach is legit and within Spotify's terms and rules. Paid promotion, invested properly, can be your key to success, but used frivolously, it can also bring your career to a grinding halt. Honest, organic growth of your Spotify career is very much a possibility via the proper use of the many paid promotional services that the internet offers. Use them carefully, and the boost that your online music career needs could be just around the corner.